time it is!
Thank you all for checking out the C-Squared Hour. I'm your host, Chris. I am basically giving you what sitcoms tend to give, probably season 5, episode 4. That's what you're getting this week. I am just going to go back for a lot of this, and basically I'm patting myself on the back this episode, because I'm looking at my show notes. Yes, I make show notes, everybody. I'm looking at my show notes, and I have noticed that a lot of stuff has been coming up in the last week in the news that I brought into the ether, if you will. So, you're welcome, folks, and I think I deserve an episode of just patting myself on the back the whole time. I've done enough whining about how fucking terrible I am and how much I hate myself. Let's spend a whole time talking about how fabulous I am. Obviously, a lot of you are going to be asking, where is the other Chris? Funny you should ask. I don't know if it was last episode or 2 episodes ago. It wasn't last episode, I know that much, because I don't know, I forget what I made up to see where he is. But it wasn't last episode, but it might have been the one before that. He was trying to lobby Congress to allow snow and ice removal at homes with blowtorches. Just the little homemade ones, not the Predator. I went over this last time. Just these little home blowtorches, hoping that it would make it easier to clear snow and ice, hence making it safer for everyone in the world. He ran into a bit of bad luck. I don't know how many of my... I've stopped doing this for a while. I gotta bring back... I don't know how many of my squareheads... See, I gotta keep the branding going on. I gotta keep it up. I almost got to the point where it sounded normal to say that. And then I just gave it up for a couple weeks, just purely on accident, and now we're here. Anyway, I don't know how many of you out there are golf nerds, but there's a very well-known course in this country by the name of Oakland Hills. If you watch any sort of news, you'd see that the clubhouse burnt down. The Oakland Hills Country Club burnt down. Terrible thing. I don't think anyone was hurt. But that's where they were. It just came out a couple days ago. Fire was caused by a propane torch. Now, because I'm only a headline boy and I'm not really, a dig into the meat of the story guy, I don't know what kind. Maybe it was in the kitchen, maybe it was what have you. The point is, the headline said propane torch. Now, not only is Chris having to go back on a lot of the shit he said, and Congress, there's talk of potential civil litigation against him. I hope that isn't the case. That would be really shitty, but we know this country is a litigious country. So, yeah, they're gonna blame him for being an amateur lobbyist and something happening thousands of miles away. So, not only is he apologizing to Congress and all this stuff, he's kind of going underneath to staying out of the limelight, if you will, to hope this all passes over and he's not the full-time scapegoat for this. But you never know. Weirder shit has happened. Hey, they still say Epstein killed himself. So, weirder things have happened in the public. Obviously, I couldn't really sleep with myself too much if I didn't say, well, I can't sleep anyway, because, anyone, I'll get into this later, anyone who can fall right asleep is psychotic. Either psychotic or stupid. If you don't have all this inner monologue running through your head, if you don't have all this shit going on in your head, you're either stupid. It's probably stupid. It's probably not a mental illness. You're probably just an idiot. If you could fall asleep right away, I can't remember the last time I have done something without something else happening in the background. The main thing is, driving and music, but like even playing video games, I always have a fucking radio show on the background, so I don't know. And if you could fall asleep in complete dark and complete quiet, I think the last person to be able to do that was Dahmer. That has to be one of the I mean, you got sociopaths. Because a lot of it has to come down to the fact that you think there is no way that anything in your life or any other part of your day or any could have been done differently, or you have any sort of regret or anything like that. So if you don't have any of that, you're going to fall asleep like a baby. Who doesn't have that? Sociopaths, psychopaths, and idiots. Fuck, where was I? It's going to be one of those episodes, folks. I hope, most people say they prefer that over a more structured one, so you're welcome. Randy, let's do this. The offer still stands. I know you ran away for just a week. You're only hiding from me for a week, so that's okay. But I will just let you know the offer's still going to be there when you come back. Let's lace them up, buddy. Let's step in the ring. You keep ducking me. Christ, this is a Ray Donovan movie? Anyway, you keep ducking me. It's fine, but you're gonna have to answer. Either publicly announce that you're afraid of me, or step in the ring. Let's do this, alright? I know you're trying to move away to avoid having to look me in the eyes. It's fine. Just, we gotta lace them up. It's gotta happen now. There's too many people clamoring for the fight. There's too many people who are begging and pleading. And you know what? Honestly, there are a few charities out there who are jockeying for a position to get the number one spot for all the money we're going to decide to give them from this fight. You're letting a lot of people down. Obviously, if you take the pussy road, you're going to be letting a few people down, but it's still going to be less than you going radio silent. So, Randy, let's do this, alright, bud? Daddy's getting himself in a comfy position because I am going to have to pat myself on the back, like I said. And I want to get in a better position to be able to do that. So, like I said, it was the first day of the Sweet 16. 2 number 1 seeds went down. I think it was just 2. The number 1 seed in the tournament is out in the Sweet 16. Gonzaga was beaten by the University of Arkansas. I told you so. In the words of Jack White, I've said it once before, but it bears repeating. GU is never going to win playing in the WCC. Never going to happen. University of Arkansas plays in the SEC. They have to battle top tier schools all fucking year. The WCC has one school a year who can kind of challenge for the conference. Kind of challenge for the conference. You go through and you outmuscle everybody. Everybody. And then you get to the tournament and what happens? Oh, no, they didn't lose because of that. They lost because of foul trouble. How do you get into foul trouble, dumb shit? You get outmuscled by the other team. Teams that are used to playing schools that have nothing but 5-star athletes. Not talents, not players, not 5-star athletes aren't going to get outmuscled. You, who can beat the shit out of Pepperdine on a year-to-year basis, you're not used to that shit. So you go in there and you get outmuscled. You look at their big guy was Chet Holmgren, who is, Christ, 6'8", $175, something like that. That's not a big guy. He gets in early foul trouble. Yeah, because he's given up 60 pounds inside. It doesn't matter how fucking good you are. My Gonzaga people out there, you gotta leave the WCC. Of course, you're gonna have to add a football team, and that's gonna cost. But maybe it's worth it. I don't know. You have all that Catholic money coming in. Throw up some Catholic guilt. See what happens, right? Church has money for stupid shit like that, right? Catholic college athletics in the U.S. The Pope needs to be going through some of that shit, right? I don't know enough about the Catholic Church's finances, but minus paying out lawsuits, I don't think they have a whole lot of expenses. I digress, but for the first part of me patting myself on the back, I'm going to say, GU fan, I told you so. I like all these people clamoring for a new coach. Like, oh, Mark Few's not a tournament coach. Mark Few. Who's going to take the fucking job? It's not a glamour position. You're not going to coach North Carolina. You're not filling in for Coach K at Duke once he retires. It's Gonzaga. It's a small school with a basketball program in a low-level conference. Gonna have to jump out of the WCC. It's gonna have to happen. Until then, enjoy your undefeated or close to undefeated regular seasons and enjoy your early exits or your absolute beatings in Final Four or national championship games. That last year when they almost beat UCLA, or almost lost to UCLA, they were the more talented team. They got outmuscled by better athletes because they had to train to play nothing but great athletes. And then you go down and you play Baylor, who outmuscles you again. Oh no, it was foul trouble. They play all year against real athletes. I'm going to leave that alone because I just didn't. Oh, it was a good run. You're not going to find anyone better than Mark Few. And I'm not saying I'm a Mark Few fan. I'm saying no one worth a shit is going to want that job. There's better jobs. Bigger recruiting fields. Better competition. I'm sorry, GU fan, but I told you so. Okay, so now that I got that out of the way, that's my current event. Not really, I guess this is all kind of semi-current events. We're going to jump down to real credit time here. This is going to be a solid hour of just me jerking myself off. This is going to be great. First thing I show here, I've come across a few articles talking about how Nick Kyrgios is becoming an American star. The brash Australian tennis player is becoming an American star. No credit to me. I'm not cited in any of these articles. I've been talking about this cocksucker for 2 fucking years. Telling everybody, yeah, he's awesome. He's fun to watch. Every reason you might not like him off the court. It's hilarious on the court because it's tennis. Who gives a shit, right? I've been saying that for years. Not one of these articles gave me any sort of credit, and obviously I'm the person who brought it to the forefront. Clearly. Who the fuck else was talking about it? No one that I care to look up or even pretend to know, or I would ignore them if I saw it because I don't want to have my feelings hurt. I don't know why my feelings would be hurt by someone else saying the same thing I did, but you're welcome, folks. You are welcome. He's becoming a star in America because I said so. Because I gave you all the heads up. Check this guy out. And now we see it, right? You are welcome. Also, I noticed that there are finally some memes going around and some movement in the Brittney Griner case. The female basketball star who was caught with a bunch of weed cartridges in a Russian airport, and she's being held. The day after I released my last episode talking about that, that's when the memes started popping up. That's when they started showing up saying, oh, this is probably a political move. Oh, this is probably... Yeah, you're welcome. Another move by me. How many times do I have to start the ball rolling on something before people start giving me credit for it? I don't ask for much. Just anyone who makes any money off it, a small percentage of what they make off it, and probably at least a national shout out, maybe a commercial taken out to give me credit. Maybe. That's unnegotiable. So that part, but yeah, throw me a couple bucks. I'm giving you the ammunition to fill up your content, your meme machine. God, I felt really bad saying that. That was possibly the dumbest thing I've ever fucking said. I also am gonna need a thank you from Brittney Griner when this whole thing flies over, because since my last episode, she's been able to meet with American, diplomats or whatever the fuck. I don't know who they were, but she's had meetings with Americans, so obviously they heard this episode and wanted to make sure and said, this drunk idiot Chris is onto something here. We need to step up and make something happen. So, Brittney Griner, whatever, 2% of your WNBA contract, so what, $7? You could throw that to me when you get over here and all this mess is cleared up, because I obviously got that ball rolling too. My last real pat myself on the back thing is that that transgender swimmer from Penn who won the national championship, or I don't know, it's fucking college swimming. Who gives a shit, right? The great swimmers don't waste their time in college, right? It's like gymnasts. If you're going to be an Olympic gymnast, you don't waste your time in college. You just stay in the fucking gym. Maybe I should look some of that shit up. But there was no memes going around that before the last episode I posted. That day, there they go. They start popping up. They start going. You're welcome. Memes going around. And I know I talk a lot about sports, and I know sports are probably more important in my life than they really should be, or should be in anyone's. Or I do get the argument, it's swimming, who gives a fuck? Let her swim wherever she wants. I get that. But when you get to the college level, there's scholarships for people. So taking a scholarship that would have gone to somebody else, that's $40,000 a year, probably at Penn. I don't know. But you're taking $40,000 a year out of someone's pocket by going to. That's where this turns into a thing. And I was smart about what I was smart about this episode is I buried this a little bit. So if you've listened to about half of this, maybe you've gotten tired of me already. If you haven't figured out who the fuck I am. So it's going to be a lot harder for people to get pissed off about this next line. And I don't even know if it's worth getting pissed off about, to be quite honest with you. There was an article that came out. I don't know how true or not it was. I forget the source. It was a relatively trustworthy source. It was a sports site with. Anyway, they were saying that people in the locker room were uncomfortable having to look, or basically changing in an area with someone with male genitalia. Okay, again, I get it. It's sports. It's not the end of the world, right? And I know that this is a tricky thing to navigate, and I know that it's a weird. That should be step one, right? I mean, a lot of this stuff doesn't comes down to how much does estrogen affect the body and, hormone replacement. How much does that, we could get into that. But to at least swim, shouldn't the operation have been done? Can we all agree that the operation had to have been done first? Of course, I'll take, credit for this specific instance, but South Park did an episode 4 years ago, basically about the same thing. But yet, if you were truly a trans person, there's definite arguments to be made, and I'm willing to even make some of those arguments for you. There are arguments to be made about you swimming with or competing against females or males, vice versa. But that should have to be the first step, right? That seems to be something that we can all agree on. Or the world's passed me by. I haven't, since that came out, there's obviously the comedy, the memes about it, and I haven't seen anything kind of going against the argument I just made, so maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe even the leftist of the left-leaning, lefter trans movement can agree. Okay, that kind of rubs us the wrong way. How does it not? Honestly, you can claim to be whatever gender you want. You can, I guess claim's the wrong word. Again, you have to be so fucking careful with all this. I'm not saying just because, you're saying I claim to be. No, just call yourself whatever the fuck you want. We'll call you whatever you want us to fucking call you. Don't be a douche about it. But there should be some steps that have to be taken before you can jump to the other divisions in sports. I read that and I said, you know what? I'm going to write this down on my show because I'm going to be able to go off on all this. And I'm just still confused. Making this into an argument that you don't sound either uneducated or a complete and utter asshole almost impossible. But what I'm saying, and how do you know? But that should be the first step. If you are going to be a trans athlete and you want to go into the division that you, or the gender side that you identify with, you should have to go through the surgery, right? It seems to be number one on the list, but NFT, what the fuck? Well, this is a terrible segue, but commercial just came on. Are NFTs just the 2020s Beanie Babies? What the fuck is an NFT? Not what the fuck is it? I've kind of learned, but where's the value in them? I don't. I think they're just Beanie Babies. They have just this inflated value. They are just going to go around for a while and then just boom, disappear, and we're all going to forget. And you're going to have a virtual attic full of them. Or I'm just too big of a fucking idiot to figure it out. But speaking of commercials, I was watching the tournament, and I'm sure if you've been watching any games, you've seen this commercial because it's come on about 634 times. A whole black screen pops up and says 40% of NCAA athletes are women, but they only get 10% of the TV coverage. I'm going to go on record and say it's not the TV network's fault. They're not as interesting to watch. Don't blame the networks. Blame the content. Your sport hasn't found a way to be as interesting, or I guess 30% more interesting. Because that would make it even, right? If 40% of the coverage was... You have to make your coverage 30% more interesting so that these networks will have a reason where they're not just shelling out money and not getting anything in return to put this on TV. But how are they going to see how great of a game it is if they put it... You've been doing it for 30 fucking years. It hasn't helped. It hasn't worked. I have a thought. Maybe what that stat says is if 10% of the TV coverage is on women's NCAA sports, maybe there's too many female athletes in the NCAA. Could that be a thing? They're 40% of them, but they only get 10%. Maybe they should only be 10% of NCAA athletes. Maybe that's all they deserve. And you know what? If you drop it down to 10%, then 100% of female athletics will be covered by TV, right? That's how that has to work out. Right? I'm not good at math, I'll admit it, but that seems to make sense. It seems to be pretty clear. If 40% of the athletes are women and you only get 10, you got to make yourself 30% more interesting. But you've been trying to shove them down our throats for 30 fucking years as a similar or the same sort of athletes, and it hasn't worked. So maybe we're spoiling women. We're spoiling. Yeah, that's it. We're spoiling women's collegiate athletics. We're not letting them sink or swim. That's what we're doing. We keep throwing them these life rafts, but not pulling them to shore. Give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. That's what we are giving the fish. We just keep handing female athletics these fish and say, here, eat, And they don't have to learn how to feed themselves. No, they just do the same thing they do and quote unquote wait for TV networks and male sports leagues and all that to hand them another fish without anything changing. Two solutions. Teach women's athletics how to fish. Let them eat for a lifetime. Or let some of them starve, and then a higher percentage will be on TV because it's the ones that people actually want to watch. God damn, I'm a genius. I didn't want to do this, but I had to. I was watching, of course, the new Law and Orders. Watching the new Law and Orders. I might be a week behind. Anywho, the new Law and Order also taking a note from me. Something I've been saying for years as well. And I believe Dick Wolf Enterprises or Productions or whoever's running, I think they might owe me a little bit of scratch for this idea. The most episode I was looking at, the main point of it was fuck internet detectives, how they don't do anything to help and they just hamper everything. And saying that for years. Every documentary I see about quote-unquote internet detectives, they always make shit worse. And that's exactly what this episode said. So, NBC Universal, Dick Wolf Productions, if that's who still does it, the Law and Order Writers Room, just, you could throw me like $10. That's fine with me because 10 works. Yeah, I'll take $10. That's fine because you've given me decades and decades worth of entertainment. So I think we're okay there. I really feel like I'm getting hacky talking too much about the new Law and Order. I'm almost turning into a new, like a recap show or something like that. So I was like, hey, this next episode that comes on, it just looked like a good old-fashioned gambling murder. That happens a bunch on the show. I don't have to worry about anything like that. Nope. Somehow turned into a poor black kid versus a white judge story. I forget exactly how she was she was a tennis prodigy, and so, unfortunately, they had to do something current with that. And yeah, there's the black kid and the white judge, and then the sport parent who was an asshole. And on that same note, I always thought, wasn't the whole big thing that Venus and Serena's parents or dad, was a bit of an asshole? But they just did this movie and Will Smith plays him, so obviously he has to be the good guy in the movie, right? And I haven't watched the movie because... shit, I gotta catch up on the new Law and Orders. I don't know, I'd have to watch the movie, but from everything you used to read and see and hear, it didn't look like someone who deserved the biopic about them. But what the fuck do I know? Listen up, new Law and Order writers, producers, and all that shit. Stop with the current event nonsense. Alright, you got enough in. You got your quota for the season. That's all you need. Go back to the good old-fashioned, finding the husband murdered, and you think it's the trophy wife, and it turns out just to be the doorman's brother who is mad at the doorman who's trying. Just give us that episode. Stop with the well, this was a murder because the internet detective didn't want to be wrong, or because defund the police, or whatever you're trying to say. Stop with that. Give us the mob hit, but you need to figure out how to tie the main guy into the head mob guy into the murder. Give us that again. Stop with the real shit. You did enough of it. You're gonna fall into the same trap that other shows fall into. And I am speaking completely out of my asshole, so take it for what you will. But where you try to get too into the day's issues. No. Just do the fake murders for no other reason than from what you see in the episode. That's all we need. Christ, I think that's probably why the original Law & Order was canceled in the first place, because they tried to... Well, I think it's because they tried to go too far in depth with each of the characters. When no one watched Law & Order for the characters, you watched it for the goddamn stories. Which isn't a trap they've fallen into yet. But who knows? I just want to see some good old-fashioned regular street murder. Give us a street murder. Give us a purse snatching gone wrong, which turns out to be give us something better. Another little broadcasting lesson for you people. And no, I don't mean Ike Turner putting Tina Turner in a cast. A podcast broadcasting. That sounded dumb. A lot of people, and I don't know if this is the same for podcasting, but when you talk to old talk radio people, a lot of people who start the show can't make it through to the end because they get busy. And from the people I talk to, a lot of them can't get through to the end because other shit comes up. They have lives. Unlike me, they have stuff to do. They have these... So, I saved this for the end. I've said a lot of shit over my 50 some odd episodes that I've done over a 6-year period or however long it's fucking taking me. I've said a lot of shit. This might be the one that gets me on the news. So, Laverne Cox. You may not know the name, but I'm sure you know the person. She is a transgender actress, most famously from Orange is the New Black. She was the first and possibly only transgender actress on that show, or the only one who was a main character. I can't speak to it. I watched 3 episodes and got tired of all the women roaring or, synchronizing their menstrual cycles or whatever they did. Except for her. Anyway, Laverne Cox. I don't remember what I was watching. Well, I remember I threw on E was having a Saved by the Bell marathon. And it was last time I was having to edit I was editing my last show and said, I'll watch a Saved by the Bell marathon because that's mindless and can be on in the background. Well, there kept be commercials for E celebrating Women's Month, hosted by Laverne Cox. Great. Might be the most qualified person who wasn't busy at that time. I'm all for inclusion, and from what I hear, she's very talented. But when you look at it one level deeper, you take it one step further. Is this another case of a man taking a woman's job? I'm letting everyone who heard that, kind of get over the, how dare you, and kind of think, yeah, there's something to that. I'm not saying she shouldn't have the job. I'm not saying she isn't perfectly qualified or isn't. But to give someone who was born genetically a male a job for Women's Month? How do women's groups or activists, how do they feel about that? because your battles are usually on the same team. From what I've seen, you're usually, kind of you're all at the same marches, but all of a sudden I could see. Actually, you know what? I'm lost. I don't know if anyone will be upset about it, if anyone could be upset about it, because I could see younger conservatives being upset, like, well, it's my woman's, or it's Women's Month and you don't have a woman doing it. But they don't watch E! Older people, they don't watch that. In fact, does anyone still watch the E! Network? Could that be why they've been having Saved by the Bell reruns? So maybe that's what maybe that's what E! was going for. Maybe they're saying, hey, you know what? No one gives a flying fuck about us. The Kardashians are done, or we're done, or are coming back, or whatever. We need to do something. I know. Let's get a trans woman to host Women's Month and see if something sticks against the wall. Maybe people will hear about us and let the argument begin. Well, E! Network, as I've already demonstrated through the first 45 minutes of this episode, you got the right guy for it, because I put shit in the lexicon. I put shit in the universe, and things happen because of me. But I guess what I'm getting at with this whole point, I've been saying something similar to this off and on, both in my professional and private life. There's a time where inclusion turns to patronizing, or it turns to opposite discrimination. I don't know how the hell to say that. I went to a Mariners game, and for Latin Heritage Night, all they did for the whole night was, well, first they gave you Robinson Cano bobbleheads, which was cool. I still got mine displayed. It's actually pretty cool. But all they did was every announcement they made it in Spanish right afterwards. That's it. And it seemed, after like the third inning, it just seemed patronizing at that point. And that kind of seems what, like, this kind of seems, and I'm the wrong person to mention this, but it seems patronizing, and it also seems a little off base. It seems, I know that Laverne Cox does not see herself as a male, and the way I look at it, live and let live, call her whatever she wants, whatever. But this comes down to a case, if you really look at it, if you look at just black and white, of a man taking a job that should go to a woman. Or is this another case of a man being more qualified for a woman's job? A job that should go to a woman, you can't find a qualified enough woman to do it, so you have to get the next best thing, which is a trans woman. There's a lot going on here. I understand that. I don't get it. Maybe, you know what, we're too early in this whole thing. With trans rights and things being in the normal lexicon, we're too early in this to jump to that level, because I see something like that as a cisgendered white male. I see something like this and I say, well, that's weird. That used to be a dude, or was born a dude, and is hosting Women's Month? But what the fuck do I know? I just wanted to leave everybody with a little slice of Let's think on that one for a second. It might be a case of being too inclusive turns out to be more offensive. Is that what we ran into? It might be a good time I'm wrapping down now because I'm starting to feel this last beer here, and I could get myself in a lot of trouble. I don't know if it's possible, but I think I'm one beer away from potentially committing a verbal hate crime. No, that doesn't. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Can't make a verbal hate crime, can you? Freedom of speech or hate crime has to be. For a verbal hate crime, do you have to say it with a scowl? I digress. Anyway, thank you once again for checking out this episode. I appreciate everyone who's listened this far. I know a lot of it was just me patting myself on the back, but I think I deserved a lot of it. I know other times it was me saying weird shit and trying to work it out in my head. What sort of... I had a lot of thoughts, and I had a lot of ideas that just are impossible to articulate. So you know what you do on a podcast? That's what you bring to the podcast. You bring in those arguments that you have in your head that are just tough to articulate and say, you know what? I can't decide this, putting it on pen and paper. So maybe I'll just start talking and hopefully it comes out. God, I'm so fucking bad at this. All right. With all that being said, I appreciate everyone who listens. Send me your beer recommendations. As you heard a couple episodes ago, I listen to them, I take them under advisement, and I'll shout them out if that's what I'm drinking. Another thing I have to mention, go buy some shit. They're just fucking t-shirts. They're not that expensive. I mean, who the fuck am I to say that? It's not like I'm paying full price for them, so... But Teespring or Spring or however it is, the link is everywhere you need to find it. All right, you go on YouTube, it's the merch link. You go onto my show description, it's there everywhere. Just go buy some shit, okay? If nothing else, but you know what you could do? Buy something. Recommend a beer, and then I'll use the money from the shirt to buy the beer. Ha ha ha. Figured it out, folks. Alright, buy the shit. Like, subscribe, all that other happy horse shit. And since there's nothing else, I will see you next time.